Hi everybody, my name's Ella. Welcome to this movement session with me today. We're going to be working on getting our hips mobilized. So that's going to involve some internal rotation and some external rotation. Before we get there, we're going to start by warming up our abs and our glutes. Abs and glutes are really important. They make up our core that helps stabilize the spine. So we really want them to be active and strong to help support us through these movements and to even power us through these movements. The props that we're going to need today is a chair and a cushion. So pause the video, go grab yourself a chair and a cushion, and I'll meet you back here when you've got those. You'll see that I have a mat. The mat is not necessary, but what is going to be necessary is to know where the front of your movement space is, where the side of your movement space is, and where the back of your movement space is. Another really important or useful thing that will help today is if you can situate yourself next to a wall. Not crucial, but it can help a lot if standing on one leg feels a little bit unbalanced or unfamiliar for you. So give yourself a moment, pause the video, go grab the things that you need, and I'll meet you down on the mat with a cushion handy, lying on our backs. All right, we're going to start with some ab crunches. They're going to be a little bit different to usual. We're going to hold the crunch position for a couple of breaths to help increase the time and tension of our muscles, which is going to make them get stronger more quickly. So it's going to feel hard. It's supposed to feel hard. Bring your hands in behind the back of your skull. Close your elbows in around your temples and interlock your fingers. Take a breath here before we start moving. Expand into your lungs. As you exhale, come up off your shoulders and think about reaching your chest up to the sky. Keep your elbows in around your temples. Keep this high up away from the floor, but let your head lean into your hands nice and heavy. Press your feet into the floor and feel how that tension through the body can help keep you up here more easily. One last breath here. In and out. And as you inhale, come back down to the floor. Exhale, come back up into that position. Reach your elbow tips up to the ceiling, chest up to the ceiling. Lean your head into your hands. 2 full breaths here. Press your feet into the floor. Last breath. And as you inhale after that, come back down to the floor. Now I'm going to make it a little bit harder. Exhale, come up into that crunch position. Lean the head, press the feet, reach the elbow tips up to the sky. Keep your left hand where it is. Reach your right arm long and parallel with that right thigh. Now make that right arm longer all the way from the shoulder blade. Keep leaning the head heavy into your left hand. Try not to clench your jaw or neck, and we'll take our last breath here, pressing the feet down into the floor. On your next inhale, return your right hand and shoulders down. Exhale, come up off the shoulders. Elbows reach up to the sky. Reach your left arm parallel with the left leg. Press your feet down. Make your left arm longer all the way from the shoulder blade. Lean your head into your right hand. 2 full breaths here. Keep that tension through the body by pressing the feet down. On your next inhale, return everything back to the starting position. One more time on each side, then we're done. Exhale, come up off the shoulders. Right arm reaches, make it longer from the shoulder blade. Reach your left elbow tip up to the sky. Lean the head into the hand, press the feet down. One more breath here, nice and steady. Inhale, return everything back to the starting position. Last time, exhale, come up off the shoulders. Left arm reaches parallel with the left thigh. Make that arm longer. Reach your right elbow up a little higher. Lean the head into the hand. Press the feet down. Last breath here. And inhale, release all of that work. Whew, my abs are burning. I hope yours are too. Now we're going to get a little bit into the glutes. Walk your feet out a little bit wider than your hips, or maybe really wider than the hips, whatever's comfortable for you. turn the toes out, put your hands on the fronts of your hips, and push your hips up into your hands to get the pelvis off the floor. In this top position here, check that you have not thrust your ribs and belly up into a back bend. We want this movement to come from the hips, not the spine. So just, if you've done that, rein it back in. You can put your hands on your ribs and pull your ribs down away from the hands. All right, this is your top position that you'll need to return to for each of these glute bridges. Return your pelvis slowly back down to the floor and then push it back up to that top position, nice and fast. Return slowly down and exhale, push it up fast. Return, inhale, exhale, push. We're doing another 5 of those. Return, inhale, exhale, push. That's 5. Return, slowly, push. 4, return, push. 3, return, push. 2, return, push. 1. That was the last one. All right, we're gonna warm up into the hip sockets now. Grab your cushion and come to lie on your side with your knees tucked in a little bit like you're lounging on the beach. Prop your head on your hand, bring the cushion between your knees, and then arrange your legs so that you're in a 90-90 position. That means that you have a 90-degree angle at your hip crease here, so you might need to walk your knees up toward your belly a little bit to get that, and that you have a 90-degree angle in your knee crease here as well. Left or top hand can go on top of your pelvis here. And we're going to start off with some internal rotation of that top leg. So start to roll your top thigh down in toward the cushion. Squeeze the cushion between the knees. And that rolling movement will flick your top foot up toward the ceiling. That's great. That's what we want. Hold that top position. Really push it into your max. Get it as high as you can with that foot. And then slowly roll back to your starting position. We'll do that another 5 times. You can come up fast and really hold that top position as high as you can. And then roll it back down. Another 4 times. 4, keep squeezing that cushion. 3, 2, and 1. Right, now we're going to move into external rotation with the same leg. Push the cushion down, bring it between your feet now, and now we're going to squeeze it between the heels. So squeeze the cushion hard between the heels. Keep your top hand on that pelvis and your gaze on that pelvis, because for this exercise, your pelvis is going to want to swing back a little bit like this. Don't let that happen. Really keep your gaze there. And now we're going to open that top knee up toward the sky. It's going to be a smaller movement than you think if you're keeping your pelvis completely still. And slowly return. Another 5 of those. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's do that on the other side. Flip yourself over. Bring that cushion between your knees. Prop your head on top of your hands. Find 90-90 with your hips and knees. And when you're ready, that top hand is on top of your pelvis, and we're starting with internal rotation. Squeeze the knees into the cushion. Roll that top thigh down into the cushion to flick that foot up. That's 1. We're going up to 6. I'm going to count us down now from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Slide that cushion down to between the feet. Squeeze it between the heels. Keep that top hand on the top of the pelvis and really look at your pelvis to make sure it doesn't swing backwards at all. Open the top knee up. 1. We're going up to 6. 2, 3, 4, 5. Slowly control the descent of that knee. And 6. Nice. All right, we're done with the warm-ups. Now we're going to get into the main movements. Start by standing up. You can put the cushion away. We're done with that one now. Stand facing the front of your movement space. with the chair in front of you. We're going to start in a knee strike position, standing on our left leg with the right knee up in front of us. Before you get there, I'm just going to explain one thing. A lot of us, because of lack of mobility or just lack of awareness in our kind of pelvis area and hip movement area, as we lift that right knee up, it might result in a tucking under of the pelvis and a bending of that bottom knee. And you'll see that with that tuck of the pelvis, that's rounded my low back. Now, I want to make these movements really clean and clear for our brain to understand that we're moving in the hip and not the spine. So to avoid that happening, just keep your knee a little bit lower and keep one hand on your sacrum or low back as a bit of feedback for your brain to understand that it wants to keep that area completely still and not letting it tuck under. So it might mean that your knee is actually down here. And that's better, and that's a good thing. That's going to be better than bringing it up higher and curling under. Okay, so let's get started. Bring your weight down into your left foot and lift your right knee up, keeping that pelvis nice and neutral. And your one hand is on the chair for balance. Now, if you can, you might need to just put that foot down and walk into a better position. If it works for you with the chair that you have, bring your knee up against the chair. And we're going to use that contact point between the kneecap and the chair as a pivot point. If that doesn't work for you because of the type of chair that you have, use your spare hand that's behind you as your contact point on the tip of your knee instead. And you're going to pivot your kneecap around that contact point as we bring our thigh bone inwards and outwards in the internal-external rotation again. So start by rolling your thigh bone inwards, and that's going to kick that foot out to the side. And roll your thigh bone outwards, and that's going to kick your foot across the body. I'm going to use that pivot point on my chair. And then do it another couple of times each side, exploring what that feels like in your hip socket. Squeeze your left glute. It needs to work really hard to hold the weight of the body on that one leg. All right, and then you're going to pause in that internal rotation, which is when the foot is kicking out to the side. Now it's going to get a little bit harder. If this is too much cramping feeling in your hips, come out of it, shake it around, and come back to join us. All right, we're going to be in that knee strike position and internal rotation. Create a fist with your spare hand. Press the fist down onto the thigh and pull the thigh up into the fist. And that should feel so grunty and so sore in your right hip joint, maybe even crampy. And if it's too much, you don't have to do it. All right, this is our position 1. We're going to switch to position 2 now. Position 2 is to take that right foot back behind us, put the heel down, and swivel your foot out so that it's at an angle. So my left toes are pointing straight ahead toward the front of my movement space, but my right toes are pointing out at an angle. If I could draw a square around myself, those right toes would be pointing out toward the side of my square. Okay, this is what I call fighting stance. It's similar to the stance that you might use in boxing to throw a jab. So we want to have a bit of buoyancy to be able to push off that back foot. To get that, make sure your back knee is a little bit bent. So we're going to return from this position into our knee strike position that we were just in. So you're going to push off that back foot, grab the chair as you need it for your balance, and return to that knee strike. Spare hand makes a fist, pushes down to create that resistance and internal rotation of that right hip. Return back to your fighter stance. Push off that back leg, knee strike, internal rotation, fist presses down, squeeze that left glute. And you can start to move in and out of these two positions at your own pace. We're going to do it another 2 or 3 times before we go on to the next movement. You might even experiment by not holding on to that chair at all when you land in your knee strike, and to just do that, make it more of a challenge for your balance and strength of that left glute to hold all the weight of the body on that one leg without your hands helping. Okay, when you've done your 2 or 3, we're going to stop and pause in that fighter's position. We're going to move on to a new position, which is a side lunge. I'm going to break it down into different steps. Start by paralleling or making your feet parallel, wide stance, and then turn your toes out a little bit. This movement is a movement of the hips, and a lot of us will try to create movement at the knees or in the spine. I'm going to show you what that looks like so that you can try to not do those things. We want this message to be clear for the brain that we're moving at the hips. So I'm going to show you first of all front on and then side on what it looks like. This is just step one of doing a side lunge. We're just starting with the hip hinge. So it starts by fingers on the fronts of the hips so we can push those hip creases back. And we want to feel like we're sticking our butt back behind us, but still reaching the chest forward so we have a straight spine. You want to go right until the point until your spine starts to curl over. I'm going to show you from the side on view what this looks like. From this upright position, I push my hips back. And because we're only moving at the hips, it means that my finishing position is with my chest facing the floor. And if you have a lot of mobility, you'll be able to go down far enough that your torso is parallel to the floor. You don't have to be able to do that. That comes in time. The important thing is that you don't go so far that your pelvis tucks under and your spine rounds. If that happens, you come up a little bit higher until you can straighten your spine and still have that bend at your hips here. You might also notice that there's a little bend in my knees. That's really important to help keep soft knees. And a really important thing to think about as well is that the knees are not pushing forward of my ankles. That becomes more quad dominant rather than hip dominant. We want to bring it back into the hips and glutes. So you're going to push, if that's happened to you and you're here with your knees forward of your ankles, you're going to push your knees back until they're over top of your ankles. Keep them there. Dig your fingers into your hip creases and really push them back so that your butt sticks back behind you. Okay, this is our hip hinge. Practice it a few times to become familiar with creating that movement at the hips alone. And then I'm going to add on the next stage, which turns it into a side lunge. So to turn it into a side lunge, you're going to pause in your hip hinge, and then we'll start with one side together. I'm going to do my best to mirror you so that you can look at me on the screen and copycat me. You're going to straighten your right leg and bend a little bit deeper into that left hip. So really push that left butt back behind you like you could shut a door with it. And you'll notice still that your left knee might be wanting to come forward. Don't let it come forward. Keep it over the ankle. Now we're going to switch sides. Straighten your left knee and bend into your right knee. This might be really hard to do it might be hard for you to kind of balance here or to hold yourself together with a straight spine here. If it's hard, come up a little bit higher, put your hands on your thighs and push your arms straight with your hands and your thighs. So you'll come up a little higher with the chest lifted a bit. And that's going to be a bit easier using your arms as a buttress, pushing against your thighs. Okay, these are our side lunges, switching from one side to the other, making sure that the hips are staying back behind us and that the knees stay over top of the ankles as they bend. We can add in one final movement here, which is whichever knee is bending, we're going to reach the opposite hand and tap the knee or tap the shin wherever you can reach comfortably without your spine rounding. If you can tap lower than the knee or the shin, go for it. That's up to you. Okay, so those are our side lunges. Now we're going to come upright, start back at the front of our movement space, and we're going to add the knee strike. We're going to skip the fighter stance, go straight from the knee strike through the fighter stance to get into our side lunge. So start by lifting your right knee up. We're standing on the left leg. Internal rotation. Use your spare hand to apply pressure down, and we fight that pressure up with the leg. Step that right foot back behind you through the fighter stance. Parallel your feet. You can turn the toes out a little bit. Now we're going to straighten. I can't do the mirroring here because it'll be back to front with your lefts and rights. But you're going to straighten your left leg and bring your fingers into your right hip crease to push that hip back into our side lunge with our right knee bent. Use your left hand to tap your knee or shin wherever you can reach. Then you're going to push down into that right foot to come upright, turning as you do that toward the front again. Reach for your chair, stand on your left leg, bring that right knee up in front of you, and internal rotation of that right leg. Right foot steps behind, through the fighter stance to swivel those feet to parallel. Straighten your left leg, bend into your right hip, tap your right knee with your left hand. So we're just going between these two positions. You can do it at your own pace, going from our knee strike, stepping back, turning, bending into that right knee that was just bent for the knee strike, straightening the left leg for a side lunge. Pushing down into that right foot to boost us back into our knee strike. This, you might be doing it at exactly the pace that I'm doing it now, and that's cool, but please just know that everybody has a different pace. You might be doing it more slowly. You might be doing it a lot faster, and that's okay, as long as you maintain that awareness around your spine, that it can stay neutral and not tuck the pelvis under or curl over for each of these movements. We'll do it another time or two, and then we'll try it all on the other side. All right. So stand back at the front of your space. If you need to be watching the computer and it's in one direction, you'll have to change the front of your space to the other side. So you'll turn a 180 and make a new front of your space like I have done here with my chair. So stand in front of your chair. You're going to stand this time on your right foot. You want to be close enough, if it worked for you, that your pivot point on the chair is close enough for your left knee to press into. If you're not using the chair for that, you know that you can use your spare hand as the pivot point on your kneecap. Check that your knee strike hasn't tucked your pelvis under. Check that you can still stand up super tall with your chest lifted and feeling like you can lift your butt cheeks up and back behind you. All right, we're going to start with those internal, external rotations. So start by rolling that left thigh inwards, and that will kick your left foot outwards. And then roll that thigh outwards, and that'll swing the foot across the body. Another couple of times each in each direction. Make sure that you can squeeze that right glute that you're standing on. That's your powerhouse for balance when you're standing on one leg. And standing on one leg is such an important thing to be able to do because it's something that we do every day as we're walking. We're shifting the weight of the body from first one foot and then the other, and it is a single leg movement. So this is helping you build a lot of strength for that. All right, pause in your internal rotation. That's when the foot is kicking out away from the body. And we're going to add that extra demand by using that fist on top of the leg, pressing the fist down, pulling the leg up into the fist. That should burn. And then slowly step that left foot back behind you, starting with a fighter's stance. Keeping that back leg buoyant, little bend so we can push into the foot, power that to turn us back and lift that leg back up into our knee strike. Internal rotation, fist pressed down, pull the leg up, and stepping back, fighter stance. Start to do this at your own pace. We'll do it another 2 or 3 times, and then we'll add in that side lunge. We already know how to do side lunges from the first side. We'll practice it on the second side before we start to move between our knee strike into the side lunge. So make this your last fighter stance here. And then turn your feet to parallel. We're just going to practice the side lunge on the left side. So you're going to, with your parallel feet, you're going to push your left hip back, let that left knee bend, but stay over the ankle, and the right leg straightens. I'm going to be back to front if you're looking at me. I'm not doing the mirror of what you're doing. Come back up to straight, and then try that again. Hinging at that left hip. Push the left hip back behind you. Bending, allowing that knee to bend, but it stays over the ankle. It does not come forward. Push into that left foot to come upright. One last time. Right leg straight, left hip pushing back and upright. Turn back to the front toward your chair. Come into your knee strike, left knee in front. Internal rotation, fist presses down. Step that left foot back through your fighter stance, parallel your feet. And now keep bending into that left hip. Touch your left knee or shin with your right or opposite hand. Come back up straight, push into that left foot to come into your knee strike. Internal rotation, fist, and step back. Now you can start to move at your own pace if you're familiar with this. Left hip pushes back, right leg straight. Reach your left knee or shin with your opposite hand. Push down into that foot to power yourself back up right to your knee strike. Another 3 or 4 times in your own time. All right. All right, everybody. We've done the main part of today's movement. I will revisit this very briefly in the next video because I would like to build on this movement and go into bigger movements. And this, what we have just done, is going to be a great warm-up for the hips for the next movement, which will be a bit bigger. For today, we're going to finish off with one final thing, and that's just to get a bit of rotation through our thoracic spine. So you're going to bring your hips in so that they are directly under your, so you're going to bring your feet in so that they're directly in under your hips. I'm going to turn side on so that you can see what we're doing a little bit better. We're going to come into that hip hinge, pushing the hips back, knees stay over the ankles, and go far enough so that you can keep a straight spine, and then plant your hands on top of your knees. That's there for a little bit of extra buttress stability. Now we're going to pull our right elbow as if we're pulling the cord on a strimmer to try to start the strimmer. We're going to pull that right elbow up to the ceiling. And as we do that, allow your rib cage to turn to follow that movement. Don't let your pelvis turn. Keep your knees parallel, your pelvis facing straight ahead. We're just moving at the ribs. Return the right hand to the right knee and do that with your left elbow. Left elbow pulls up, left hand to knee. Right elbow pulls up, right hand to knee. Left elbow. And start to move at your own pace. Another couple times each side. It should feel really nice for your upper back, for your shoulders and neck perhaps as well. We'll have plenty more of these rotational movements coming in sessions to follow. All right. And let's call it a day. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope your hips feel amazing. I hope you can feel your glutes active right now. And if you are at a right time of your day to go for a walk, now would be a wonderful time to go. Get out there, whether it's raining or windy like it is today. Get out there, your hips are ready. They'll be super strong. You'll feel great. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you in the next session.